The Liverpool Reaction, an American LFC podcast, starts now. Well, everybody, welcome back. It's been a minute. Coach and I have had our respective vacations, and to be quite frank, Coach, the last month, the month of May, has been very anticlimactic. So it hasn't been a dying need for us to jump on. However, saying that, we are going to talk about the end of the season. Coach, hot start to the season and most consistent team, 84 points to win the league by 10 points, but easily could have been 90, right, Coach?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think even a few years ago when we won it under Jurgen Klopp, I think they'd only lost 2 games the whole season, and then in the last 7, after they clinched it, they lost another 2 games and they drew and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's very, very difficult, and I've heard Slot talking about it. It's very difficult to keep up that intensity as though you're still in the title chase. But it was a long countdown in the end from the Tottenham game through to the final game of the season and the trophy presentation against Palace.
Yeah, realistically, they won it at the end of April. So it's very interesting, but I think that's just common human psychology. I mean, it's wrapped up. Really, those games are just to make up the numbers. Really, it's got nothing to do with anything. And I found it as a fan very difficult to really get invested in it. I did unfortunately miss the final game with Crystal Palace. I was at the happiest place on earth called Orlando for doing a little Disney vacation with my daughter and my family. Also the hottest place on earth. They should mention that as well. But I got to see the highlights, and I did watch about 10-15 minutes of the parade just on YouTube. And I mean, the way the fans celebrate this team, the passion behind it, it's really, really miraculous how this city and this team are kind of intertwined, and they're part of the thread of each other. Obviously, there's the blue side and the red side, but the way that Liverpool kind of wrapped everything up so quickly, thinking that this might be a transitional season, new coach, a lot of kind of ifs, ands, and at the end, it really wasn't that much of a fight. It was Liverpool's all the way.
Yeah. It was. They kind of got their noses in front. When was it? It was before Christmas, wasn't it? And really, there was always the hypothetical that somebody could challenge them, but it was always hypothetical. It was never really concrete. I mean, Arsenal was closest, but they just kept dropping points all the time, and so it was never really a serious challenge as such. And a 20th title goes to Anfield.
We're going to do some awards for the team here in a second, but Coach, before we get into that, obviously there's some a lot of news on Liverpool wrapping up a lot of their business early. Jeremie Frimpong has officially been signed. Florian Wirtz, a bomb out of nowhere, looks like he's coming as well. There's a lot of positive talk from a lot of well-known transfer reporters that are saying it's now just kind of the specifics. I don't know if you saw it today, but Kelleher has moved to Brentford officially.
I didn't know that.
18 million. I thought that was a low number. I thought we'd get a little bit more from him, but Flecken went to Bayer, and then Kelleher's over at Brentford.
Are there add-ons to that?
I'm confused. It says includes add-ons, so I don't know if that means that there's add-ons on top of that, or if that's the whole package.
Yeah. I mean, I've been at games all day, so I've not come home and looked at the website or the BBC website yet. So yeah, I mean, obviously we were expecting Kelleher to move on.
Yeah.
especially with Mamadishvili. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Nice, coach. You got it.
Yeah. I mean, he's en route from Valencia, so yeah, I don't think that's a shock.
Yeah,
that he's gone, and yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see how it all pans out. I mean, there's a lot of talk about players coming in, and then the question is, well, who's going out? I mean, I think Liverpool will have a lot of money in the bank because they've not been active for a few transfer windows, but at the same time, they will still need to sell players. They will need to sell players. So it's not like they have a Coutinho, that they're going to get a real amount of money for. But I think Darwin Núñez is very likely to move on, and they should get a decent amount of money for him.
Yeah,
because I think in the right kind of situation, he'll score goals.
Yeah, it just didn't work out here for some reason. It just, he's a good player and he's had moments. I mean, big moments too for the team. But for a striker, I mean, we've talked in nausea about that. But coach, interesting about Florian Wirtz potentially coming. There's talk of Harvey Elliott or Kwanzaa going the other way. To Bayer as part of the package. If you had to choose, coach, who would you choose if we had to part with one of them?
Yeah, that's a tough. Actually, I thought they were talking about Tyler Morton going the other way because they were already interested in him.
It seems like I follow three people that I trust. Fabrizio Romano, David Orenstein, and then Florian Plettenberg from Germany. Mm-hmm. And when you each one of them has their sources, but now it's starting to float that Bayer Leverkusen are potentially interested in one of those players as part of the package. So they said specifically Kwanzaa or Harvey Elliott. And I asked you the question, but from my standpoint, if you're bringing in Wirtz, I think Harvey Elliott's the one that has to go the other way. I think Harvey's a better player than Kwanzaa. Granted, they are different positions, but we're kind of thin at center back, and I think moving Kwanzaa on would kind of put us potentially in a dilemma in the back. So I think Harvey Elliott, if this is the way they want to go about it,
right? Yeah,
the guy.
I would agree with that. I mean, because there's also the Konate contract issue. So,
right.
I mean, we've talked about this before. Like we had the situation with the three big names this year, but Liverpool during the Jurgen Klopp era commonly let contracts of first team players run down.
Yeah.
Now he's gone. Are they going to keep doing that? That is the question because Konate, I would say that if he doesn't want to sign a contract, then they've really got to sell him.
Yeah.
Because they get good money for him, without a shadow of a doubt. But I guess the other part of the equation is who do they have eyes on to bring in if Konate was to move on? So I think I would agree with your reasoning. I think that they've got to keep Kwanzaa. And I know some people have been tough on Kwanzaa, but I think he's a good prospect, and I think he's got potential.
Yeah. Yeah, coach, with Trent going to Real Madrid, Liverpool somehow got 10 million euros for him because they wanted Trent for the Club World Cup. Real Madrid wanted him for the Club World Cup and were willing to pay 10 million euros for him. I mean, all things considered, look, he's worth way more, but for a month, they're renting him for a month basically for 10 million, and then they own him. I mean, in theory.
Yeah, and I saw something. Are they paying his wages as well or something?
Yeah. Yep.
So I can't say that I'm shocked, that they kind of got something because it was no secret that they wanted him for the Club World Cup, and Liverpool were under no obligation to send him or to sell him early. So I guess it was a logical thing, and clearly Real Madrid were prepared to pay.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how things unfold, but the fact that Liverpool's in these reporters' mouths and the tweets that are coming out are very consistent between all three about Wirtz and Kerkez is very encouraging. To get business done that early and to get a guy like Florian Wirtz, a 22-year-old German playmaker, one of the best three players under 25 on multiple lists is incredible. But Coach, back to this season. So, I came up with a list of how we want to talk about some of these players, and the first kind of award is Player of the Season. Mm-hmm. Is there really much discussion as far as another player other than Mo Salah?
Well, I think you've almost got to say, well, who's the runner-up, really?
Yeah.
Who's in contention to be runner-up? Because, you can't really look past Mo Salah. I mean, looks like he's going to sweep just about every award that there is, Player of the Year, goal score, Golden Boot, most assists.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to get all these awards. And so... Why? Because he's been the dominant figure in the Premier League this year, and Liverpool wouldn't have won the title without him. It's that simple.
Coach, you think he gets a Ballon d'Or?
Oh, God knows how that works.
Yeah,
I mean, he's never had much joy with it before, so yeah, who knows? Who knows how that works?
He's a deserving candidate, at least. We know that.
Definitely. I suppose the only thing that we know about the Ballon d'Or is surely Real Madrid can't get in a sulk about it this year. I don't think they know anything, did
they? Okay. Coach, most improved player.
Well, I think most people would plump for Ryan Gravenberch because I don't know how many games he played under Klopp. It might be something like 30, but I think most of them were kind of cameo type appearances, rather than solid appearances. And obviously, he was used a lot more offensively than the role he played under Arne Slot. So again, as with Salah for Player of the Year, I think really you can't look past Ryan Gravenberch in midfield.
Yeah. I was trying to think who else could be, kind of in that conversation, but he was, he moved into somewhat newer position for him and was excellent. And for that, I think there's not even a close runner-up. I mean, very much to the Mo Salah Player this season award. I think maybe Virgil you can kind of throw in there, but Mo was outstanding. With some really, really ludicrous numbers. There's nothing you can say about that. Coach, what about most consistent player?
Actually, that's maybe one that Salah doesn't win because obviously he tailed off at the season's end or towards the end of the season. And that actually might be where Van Dijk could be a contender. I think McAllister would be a contender.
Yeah.
Because Gravenberch also, I felt he tailed off a bit as well towards the end of the season. So I would say it's between Virgil van Dijk and Alexis McAllister for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Award.
Yeah, I would even edge out McAllister a little bit. I think what he brings to the team, I mean, Virgil's outstanding, but I think even Virgil had some mishaps here and there. And McAllister just... I describe him as world-class because of his touch, his vision, like his actual brain, the way he sees a game. He's not maybe world-class from a standpoint of speed or shooting, but he is so good and so integral in the middle there where he kind of, runs the show, so to speak. And I thought he was fantastic this season.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Liverpool are fortunate to have. Well, Liverpool are fortunate to have a very strong backbone to their team.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, what about best young player?
That's maybe a little harder to figure out in terms of, I know there was a stat floating around that Liverpool had the most academy players get minutes since the Alex Ferguson era.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, say compared to the season before, where at one point Jurgen Klopp was really throwing in academy players. I suppose it would have to be Bradley, even though he had spells out through injury. I mean, I think one of the things with Bradley and his moment where he truly arrived was that crunching tackle on Mbappe in his league. So I suppose that he would be the obvious contender. Elliot didn't play as much this year. Tyler Morton got a few cameos early on. Quansah was kind of in and out.
Mm-hmm. Curtis Jones you could throw in there. Curtis Jones had a good season.
I suppose Curtis Jones is still on the young side. So yeah, I'd forgotten about him. So yeah, I would say Jones. Jones would probably edge it because he played more, but I think Bradley's in with a shout as well.
Yeah. Best game of the season.
The best game of the season. Oh gosh.
I think it's the 6-3 drubbing of Tottenham.
Well, I would classify that more as the wildest game of the season. I can't remember how many goals at Liverpool were ahead, and I think they definitely relaxed because, Tottenham's an attacking team, they don't put much credence in their defense.
Yeah.
That was a pretty wild game. There weren't an awful lot of games like you were getting the Jurgen Klopp era where it would be kind of tit for tat and then Liverpool's having to climb the hill and come back. You hear people when they talk about Arne Slot, he's very calm. And so I think overall there was a greater calmness to a lot of Liverpool's games because they would kind of vary the speed of play. And they would certainly be very low key at time. So I suppose that Tottenham game, it was a wild game. But and offhand, I can't really think of.
Let me give you some options.
You go on.
What about Liverpool Bournemouth when Nunes comes in and scores 2 at the end?
Do you mean Brentford?
Yes, Brentford. Pardon me. Yep.
Okay.
The Real Madrid 2-0 win.
Oh, of course, there's Champions League games as well. Yeah. I think some of the performances against Madrid, Manchester City, I think the Manchester United game away, those were really convincing Liverpool performances. Big games against rival teams. I think that they are games. I think the demolition of Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen.
4-0, yeah.
Actually, second half especially, they really took them apart. Those were great games. I suppose that the PSG games were great. I mean, Liverpool were definitely at that point of the season, they were looking jaded. And like PSG, as we saw last night, are absolute dynamite.
Unbelievable last night. Unbelievable.
And so with hindsight, given that Liverpool weren't firing on all cylinders, if you think about it, it was a 1-1 game over 2 legs and they lost on penalty kicks. So they certainly went closer than anybody else to stymiing PSG. And I know there's been quite a lot of talk about one thing that PSG has in their favour is that they're in a league where they're so far ahead of anybody else that there's no competition. So they're relatively fresh when it comes to playing in the Champions League. And I think there is something in that. Having said that, I think the they are incredibly well coached, and they have absolute dynamite up front.
Their pressing is so high intensity. Vitinha and João Neves are, I mean, just all over the place, getting the ball back. I mean, yesterday it was just they were the best team this year. I mean, it's clear. They went through Liverpool, Aston Villa, Arsenal. I mean, they just cruised through teams, and they were very impressive. And that team is very young. So to see what they're going to do in the next, 2-3 years is going to be very impressive.
Yeah, I think that will be interesting. Although I'm hearing some people say that some of them might leave, but I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I can't see. I mean, Dewey was unbelievable yesterday. Yeah. Coach, best moment of the 2024-2025 season.
I would say the second goal against Tottenham at Anfield, where apparently the cheer was so loud it registered on the Richter scale. I mean, it was such a dynamic shot. I mean, it was an absolute missile. And Tottenham had scored, Liverpool had equalised. So, I mean, I wasn't there at the time, so I would doubt whether the stadium felt after Liverpool fell behind that it wasn't going to go their way. But anyway, they equalised. But at that moment when McAllister scored that goal, I mean, like that's, as I say, it was such a fantastic shot that just, you knew then, like the crowd must have known there was no way that anything else was going to happen. And,
yeah.
The title was on its way for sure.
I have that moment, and you mentioned earlier the Connor Bradley crunching tackle on Mbappe. I thought that was a great moment too, because not only did he do that, the crowd's reaction to the tackle was fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, those two moments stick out in my mind as well.
Yeah.
Coach, as we wrap everything up here and put a bow on 2024-2025 season, is there anything else that kind of sticks out to you about this Liverpool team, what they accomplished, maybe what they didn't accomplish? What else how will you remember this year and this team?
Well, I think as just a very efficient team. I mean, it was a good squad. It was a good squad that Arne Slot inherited. So obviously the question mark was, well, what kind of coach is he? And they hadn't bought anybody. I mean, like they brought in Chiesa, but as we've said before, I think that was just a signing of convenience and kind of wasn't a great way to kind of quell the moaning people or the moaning fans that, Liverpool haven't done anything in the transfer market. So, yeah, it was just a very, very efficient team. And that's the positive. I mean, coming back to the PSG game, again, they're a hard team to beat when they're functioning and the focus. If you take away after they won the title and everything, Liverpool just don't lose many games, or they didn't lose many games this year.
Mm-hmm. And
so that's a fact. Where you can say, oh, well, they got knocked out of the cup by Plymouth. But again, it wasn't the regular Liverpool team. So they don't lose often. They're tough to beat. I think the only thing that I would be a little bit critical about was that he didn't rotate more in the midfield. And I think that's where they kind of ran out of gas a little bit.
Yeah.
And if Arsenal had given them more of a challenge, or Manchester City had been closer to their previous seasons in terms of performance, how would Liverpool have handled it then? Because they weren't as impressive in the latter half of the season, and part of it was because they didn't need to be, and part of it was because I don't think the midfield was freshened enough.
Coach, as you kind of look at that midfield and, it was kind of a four-player midfield, right? It was Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, and then Jones was shuttled in here and there. Endo had a couple minutes. Harvey Elliott had some minutes as well. But that, generally speaking, it was those four.
It was four, yeah. It was four, yeah.
With potentially Wirtz coming in, does that solidify it with five like really good options there?
I think it does, and it sounds like Endo's talking like he doesn't want to move.
Yeah.
So if that's true, then the only way he's going to move is if the club tells him that he's got to move.
Right.
Maybe to recoup some money, but I feel Endo has to play more. If they keep Elliott, I think he's got to play more. I mean, for me, if you look at the squad overall, I think a good Premier League squad has to have 24 players.
Yeah.
24 senior players. And, I know that we're hearing, Slots and maybe Guardiola, that they only want 20. But the point is, that you've always got injuries, you've always got suspensions, and you have to have a degree of coverage.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of people whine because Liverpool only had 3 centre halves this year, or 3 central defenders after Gomez went down. So then you've got to have other players, whether it's an Endo or maybe even a Gravenberch, that can kind of do double duty. And so for me, a Premier League squad has to be 24 senior players, and then you have to have about 6 academy players that, that if you do get an injury run, some of them have to be able to come in and play a part. They have to be able to play a part in some of the domestic cups.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're talking about 30 players overall. Given that Liverpool will always loan out players who potentially could play in the first team. Now, I heard something when I was driving to the game today on Radio 5 that Stefan Bajcetic, that he won some kind of award in Spain for Young Player of the Season, which I don't know whether that was for the league or whether that was for the club or whatever, but it sounds like he's had a good season. So I think Bajcetic is probably about 20 now. So he should be coming into the mix. I think Slot used him in the preseason and then determined it would be better for him to go out on loan. But he would certainly give cover, as your number 6, your defensive midfielder, call it what you will. Because when he played under Klopp, a couple of years back, I thought he was very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets stuck in for sure. And Coach, I think, right, realistically with him, probably the hierarchy has to make a decision one way or another for him, right? And either bring him in or move him on.
Right. I think the one factor is if the Florian Wirtz thing does finally go through and they do pay like 110, 120 million or, whatever it's going to be, then I think that the reality of that means that, that they're going to sell some academy players. So it could be Bajcetic, because they might get good money for him. It could mean Ben Doak, because again, that's another player that they could get good money for. So if they sell a couple of these kind of players, then they could be recouping, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to 40 million. And so that effectively brings the Wirtz deal down to 80 million, say, or 70 million. And so I think this will be part of the reasoning, like the transfer fee for Kelleher, you put it against like the transfer fee for Mamardashvili from Valencia. So it kind of halves the transfer fee, as it were. So I don't know if they think like that. I'm not a maths whiz or anything, but yeah, I think these all have to be factors.
Yeah, Coach. it's been a heck of a ride, a surprising season for sure. I just remember before the season even started how me and you were kind of cautioning everybody to be patient, new coach, new tactics, and now now that Liverpool won the title, I think it was a 5% chance, something like that, very low percentage, according to the numbers and the bookies and all that good stuff. But now they're in a position of power, and the Wirtz thing is such a statement that the fact that he said no to City and then said no to Bayern and said, I want Liverpool. I mean, that is huge statement for the club, and kind of this, it's not even real, but there's a perception, Zubamendi said no, and, players don't, say yes to Liverpool, but this is a major, major coup. And Frimpong is no joke either. And if we land Kerkez, I mean, just this wave of momentum that the club has, the team has, and now, what Richard Hughes and Edwards are doing, making sure that they're signing quality players to fill in the gap. And I was listening to somebody and they were saying how there's, the playmaking was out of the right back with Trent over the past 6-7 seasons. He was, the guy that could, pick out a pass from anywhere. And now we just have to replace that, but we're not going to replace it at right back. So it's just the fact that we might get this, unbelievable player. And a lot of the stuff that you hear about him, it's just really encouraging. And we know that we're fiscally responsible, but the fact that they're saying, okay, we need to address these holes, and they're like coming out of the gate and really being aggressive, it's really, really reassuring for the future of this club.
Yeah. So I think that for the next few weeks, I guess now that we can take the transfer market seriously because the season is over. One deal down for sure. Let's see if they tie up Wirtz. Let's see if they tie up Kerkez. And I have to believe that they'll be looking for a centre forward. So
there's murmurs again from these notable reporters that Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt is
to be the name that keeps cropping up.
Yeah. It's not going to be cheap, but man, again, another statement of intent. Well, Coach, as always, I want to thank you for a great season. It's always awesome talking with you about Liverpool Football Club, and you are spreading the word, as you say. So guys, thank you so much for watching and on YouTube or listening via podcast. We're having so much fun doing this, and it's really going to get even more fun, especially with all these new signings that are kind of required because of one thing or another, players falling off, players moving on. So it's going to be really interesting the next couple months and see how it all shakes out. Coach, other than that, I have nothing else. Thank you again, Coach, but thank you again, everybody, for watching and listening. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye.